Appreciate everybody joining in. I'm Tyler Moffitt. I'm a Senior Threat Research Analyst with WebRoot, and I'm going to be presenting the 2016 Year of Ransomware along with many other things as well. So our agenda today is we're going to go over the threat report. We recently released a new threat report with some interesting data with our collective threat intelligence. Some headlines, then we'll move into the meat where we're talking about attack vectors, specifically phishing and exploit kits, how these ransomware payloads enter your system, because they have actually changed. Then we'll actually talk about top ransomware variants, so actually the actual payloads that are doing the encryption on your machine. Those have gone through some changes as well over the years, and I'll talk about what's new and what's going on right now. Then we also have predictions for 2017, and I have plenty of things regarding IoT with ransomware because that is exploding and only snowballing. Now, do remember, if we do have questions at the end, we do have a set period of time where we will answer questions. So if you do have any while I'm rambling on, go ahead and please type them in the Q&A box, and we will get and answer those at the very end. If we don't answer your questions, my email will also be available, so if you want to reach out to me personally at my email or anybody else's, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions offline as well. So, to begin with a threat report. 2016 was yet another record year for cybercrime. We saw more malicious IPs, websites, mobile apps than we did in the previous year. To begin, it's important to understand the source of WebRoot's threat intelligence. So all data in this presentation is derived from the WebRoot Threat Intelligence Platform and represents real infection data directly from our customers and the networks and devices that we protect. So the big data processing used in this platform, coupled with massive scale WebRoot's machine learning and powerful contextual analysis engine, enables WebRoot, the intelligence platform, to scan and classify over 27 billion different unique URLs on over 600 million different domains. A little fun fact: we actually scan and reclassify all 4.2 billion IPv4 addresses and all in-use IPv6 addresses. And we have over 13 billion file behavior records that help us to classify the million plus or so new executable files that we encounter each and every day. And we actually have over 50 million mobile apps in our database, which is huge growth. In the previous years, I will go into it, we're seeing a lot of growth with mobile, which is to be expected, to be honest. And so as the source of this data and this giant feedback loop into our engine, we have 40 million connected sensors, so whether that be endpoints or network devices, that's the source of the data. So executable files, okay? Approximately 1 in every 40 new executable file in 2016 was malware, okay? So, and during 2016, of those malicious files, 94% of those files were only ever seen once, so on one PC. Which really underscores how prevalent and important polymorphism is still in the landscape. So, during 2016, WebRoot classified 56% of previously unseen malware executables as malicious within the first hour, okay? And, with the vast majority caught and blocked in real time, as in, like, as soon as it hit the actual machine. You push that back to 12 hours, and we caught over 90%. Okay? And WebRoot was able to accomplish this in part because of its record of digital fingerprints for every executable file encountered by WebRoot, combined with automated systems that use those fingerprints to create new detection rules to stop similar files in real time. So even though attackers continue to innovate and use low-volume attacks to avoid detection, WebRoot is innovating more quickly to stop them from breaching systems and data. So a little information on IP and threat intelligence. We're constantly updating our blacklists because it's happening in real time. So at any given time, what we have in our blacklist ranges between 8 and 12 million IPs. So over the course of 2016, 33 million unique malicious addresses appeared in the blacklist, which is a slight increase from 2015. So this indicates the trend that we've seen in previous years is continuing, which is that attackers are changing their IP addresses so constantly to avoid or delay detection of their malicious activity. And we found once an IP address associated with malicious activity, security vendors add it to their blacklist. but the time needed to identify the malicious activity and then provide the updated blacklist to customers, it varies by vendor and usually takes hours, right? But Webroot constantly identifies new malicious activity and updates the blacklist, enabling immediate detection from these IP addresses. So the Webroot approach makes the window of opportunity for attackers as small as possible. And we found that 88% of all IPs that made the blacklist, they only appeared once. So what that means is there was only one instance of those addresses being used for malicious activity and then never again ever before seen. They were used for good activity and had no malicious behavior whatsoever. So those of you wondering, the remaining 12%, we actually took the top 10,000 that were seen more than once, and we found that they were added and removed from the blacklist 18 times each. Okay, so that means people are finding favorite websites and addresses, and then using them, removing them, using them, and removing them, which is interesting. And those of you who want a geo breakdown of what that looks like, got one for you. So as you can see, the United States still has the largest share at 22%, right? But it's down almost half from 41% in 2015. So, a little context to sort of explain what's going on here. You have to realize America should have the biggest share, because 55% of all registered IP addresses in the world are registered here in the United States. But for the fact that there's a drop of almost half, right, means that there is obviously an increase in foreign attacks, and we are seeing that. So, China stayed pretty much the same. We're seeing, Germany, United Kingdom, and Japan decreased as well, down to 1%. But boom, Vietnam went from less than 0.5% in 2015 to over 9% share in 2016. Similar climb here. Also, India went from 1% to 8%. So, it's interesting to see. And so we also have countries that have high-risk URLs. So as far as the countries that have the most high-risk URLs in the United States, 43%. And that makes sense. You have to realize, too, because, even if the malware is being created by people in China, people in Russia, right, they're not hosting it in their home state. They're hosting it in the United States because, it just makes sense because they want to avoid automatic blocking by geo-filtering services. So, geo-filtering alone accounts for the location of IP addresses being used. Because I know some people in the United States, some businesses are going to be like, well, there's no reason why you would be connecting to these, you don't speak Russian, we don't deal with Russians, we don't deal with Chinese people, so why would you even need to, we're just going to go ahead and blanket blacklist or remove those from communicating, right? And so they don't want to be thwarted right then and there, so they host everything in the United States. That's basically why we're seeing that. So, moving on, let's take a little actual breakdown of each little country, right, of the top 10 countries, see what type of, what's being, dealt with those high-risk URLs, okay? And so, we'll take a look, and we categories of malware, phishing, spam, proxy avoidance, and anonymizers, and botnets. So the most common type of high-risk URL makes sense here is malware, followed by phishing, also makes sense, and then proxy URLs. So spam and botnet URLs are by far the most, least common types. But some interesting facts we found, because different countries vary. Nearly 75% of Germany's high-risk URLs are associated with proxies. And this is more than twice the relative share of any other country in the top 10. Okay? Over 65% of Australia's high-risk URLs are for phishing. And this is interesting. I've seen a lot of phishing for Australia, but it's this high. It's double the share of the second highest country in the top 10. So phishing, Australia is definitely one of the top targets. And all top 10 countries other than Germany and Australia, their most common high-risk URL type is malware, which is to be expected, followed by either proxy or phishing. And the three countries with the top 10 as far as the highest relative percentages of malware in the URL are China, 86% of their high-risk URLs are malware. We've got Ukraine, 84%, and Hong Kong at 80%. Okay, phishing attack life cycles. So dangerous trend we've noticed over time in the past few years is the shortening of phishing attack life cycles, okay? And what that means is how long is a phishing site active before it goes away and you never see it from it ever again, right? So this is about a sample set of about 1,000. We found that none of them lasted over 2 days. In fact, we found over 5% didn't even last 15 minutes. We found that the overall average was less than 15 hours, and 84% of them were less than 24 hours, okay? And that's a huge decrease over the previous years. Okay, it's an important trend because anti-phishing technologies based on static blacklists, cannot keep up with the short life cycles, making them much less effective at stopping attacks. So WebRoot's developed the Bright Cloud real-time anti-phishing service to automatically determine in milliseconds if a page site is being requested or is part of a phishing attack, right? And real-time anti-phishing are definitely absolutely necessary for stopping phishing attacks. And you have to realize, too, it wasn't a little bit ago, a few years ago, where these guys, they were active for weeks or months, these phishing sites, and they were hosted on, unique domains that they created themselves, that they hosted themselves. But now what they're doing, because they only want it active for a small amount of time, and they know that it's easier to find a unique random domain that they're creating, what they're doing is they're going after benign domains, right, good domains, and they find one sub-web page in that domain that's maybe vulnerable. They hack that web page, then they host their phishing there, and then they have it only active for 24 hours or so, and then it goes offline. They only want the specified number of credentials anyway. So it's interesting to see that's where they're moving. So let's take a look. Top phishing impersonated companies, right? We're taking a look at tech. Tech companies are overtaking financial. You would think phishing, most valuable opportunity would be going after financial accounts, so Chase, Wells Fargo, PayPal, stuff like that, right? And it's not. We're seeing a decrease in that, and that's because phishing is not new news, guys. Everybody's heard about phishing. We've heard about it for a decade now, and everybody's getting more and more aware. So a lot of people are more and more they're careful, and more secure with their financial information and financial data. They're checking more often into the financial websites they log into to make sure that they are legit and they are logging into the right place. And they've also found that as far as if you are a cyber criminal and you wanted to go after somebody, it would actually make sense to go after their tech account. It actually has a greater return on investment. So an example, right? Let's say you do go after Google or Yahoo, their main email hub. If you do compromise their main email hub, you then have access to any other accounts that they've created or use that as their email, because you have emails of all their shopping and order confirmations and any other sites they may use, right? And you have an email, you have a password, you'd be surprised how many people still have overlap. Now, I know the general rule of thumb is to have different passwords for stuff, especially email, but it's not always the case, and many people still have overlap. If I had your email login, including your password, I already have something to try on all the other accounts you have. I'm sure one of those would work. And in some cases, that even works for that financial institution. They already can tell if they have Chase or PayPal or Wells Fargo is that the email they use, great. Now we have a password to try. Let's see if we can get in there. In fact, we found that last year, the ratio for every one financial phishing, we found over 7 tech email hub phishing, okay? And that was a huge increase from 2015, where for every one financial, it was only 2.5 techs that were found. So it is definitely growing towards tech, and that makes sense. So now let's take a look at mobile app, Android app reputations. Over 2016, we saw 4 times as many new and updated mobile apps that were observed and analyzed in 2015. So starting in February 2016, every month app volume was more than double the 2015 averages, okay? So February through July 2016, relatively stable in terms of volume except for March. I'm sure you guys can see there, you're like, what happened in March? Okay, blame China. China had a ridiculous two SMS campaigns. One was SMS malware, so malware actually on the phone that would send out premium SMS messages that would then generate money for the cyber criminals. And because you have to realize, you're probably wondering, how do they get that malware? China doesn't like Google at all. They don't even allow Google. They have their own search engine. They don't allow Google Play. So all those people with Android phones in China, they have to rely on third-party sites to get their apps. That's a breeding ground for people like submitting booby-trapped or Trojan ads that maybe have like Dendroid capabilities and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, there was a huge SMS campaign, not only with SMS malware, but also SMS phishing, where people were getting SMS for links that were phishing attacks as well. But all I want you to take away from this, as you can see, is that we're seeing more of it. In fact, as far as we classified nearly 10 million apps as malicious or suspicious, right, during the year. In contrast, in 2015, we only categorized 2 million such apps. So basically a 500% growth in just malicious apps in general, which is quite large. So little conclusions from the threat brief. This is not a conclusion of the presentation. Approximately 1/3 of URLs that had sufficient information for us to give a risk category were considered high risk, most of which being in the United States, 43%. Phishing attack life cycles are dropping now to an average of 15 hours or less, okay? And unique zero-day phishing URLs nearly doubled. In fact, we saw Q4 of 2016 did more than double Q1 of 2016. And new and updated malicious Android apps are growing. In fact, we're seeing 500% increase, so that's huge. And this does make sense. I mean, as time goes on and these phones get bigger and more powerful, we're using them more often in place of laptops and desktops. I'm now getting to the point where I can use my phone for almost anything. I mean, basically, the only thing I use my laptop for is like creating PowerPoint presentations, which I can still do on the phone. It's just not as good. So as far as other news lines that we're seeing as far as headlines, Mirai. If you guys haven't heard about this, I'm glad I get to talk to you about it. It's super important, right? So it's an Internet of Things botnet malware, right? Krebs Security first leaked it, talking about NSMPI having this ability, and so this person on hack forums essentially leaked this program that would scan Telnet, which is just a subset of the Internet that a lot of these devices operate on, right? It's just an Internet protocol. And so all of these IP cameras, routers, DVRs, doesn't matter. They all use that, right? And it scans for them and then tries to log into them using the default usernames and passwords. How many of you have actually logged in and created, like with a router, right? You log in and the username's admin, password's user, or something like that. It's usually on the bottom of the router. The default factory settings has a generic username and password, right? You're supposed to change that when you set up your router. Well, good number of people don't at all. And so what this does is this logs in username. In fact, it only has like, I think, 60 or so usernames and passwords that it tries. I've got them there pulled up for you. And it would work. In fact, it would get over literally like this person, NSMPI, pulled 380,000 of them. So what it would do, logs into them, then uploads to them basically new instructions and uses them as a botnet. So botnets historically were like other people's computers. They were other people's private computers that were infected with malware, and unbeknownst to them, these computers were then used in a group to like commit DDoS or send spam emails, right? And that's how it was done historically. But now, instead of needing actual personal computers, they can just do routers, IP cameras, DVRs, you name it, right? And so these devices, once turned botnet, they will still function for their intended purposes. So the routers will still filter your traffic and wirelessly transmit it all to you. The only thing you might notice is the occasional sluggish bandwidth. But usually, from where these guys come from, the time zones of the people they're targeting, they're usually asleep when they're using it for malicious attacks anyway. All right? So anyway, as far as showing how powerful this is, they shut down Dyn. And Dyn is like internet service provider for like big important, I think Netflix, Twitter, some other people as well, I forget, but a lot of big important companies were shut down for basically a couple of days, and it actually made headline news because people weren't able to use these services because Dyn was basically shut down because you had 380,000 of these that were sending, false requests, and they were able to put, like, seriously, like 2 terabytes per second of traffic. And that's what basically was able to shut it down and create denial of service attacks. And so it's important because there's many implications from it. They were even Ukrainian power grid DDoS attack. They use it to shut it down. Twice in a year, by the way. Didn't just happen once, they did it again. I don't know if that's the fault of the UK power grid not making enough changes after the first time, but also the Mirai botnet bricked 800,000 routers from a German ISP. You know, like Comcast, how they, you know, if you don't want to supply your own router and modem, they'll give it to you for a monthly fee. Those weren't able to be hacked by Mirai, but it trying to log into them bricked them. So it broke them, so people lost internet for weeks until it was fixed. And so yeah, there's many, many implications from it. Now I'm going to move into phishing and exploit kits, okay? So some interesting tactics we're seeing to evade detection. JavaScript, using JavaScript now in phishing to prevent you even leaving the page. We've also seen plain text to avoid HTML analysis when it comes to determining. In fact, we found that in all of 2016, the average user, 92% chance of visiting a zero-day phishing website, okay? And we found that 60% of the people who were presented with it actually fell for it. They actually input in credentials into the fake phishing website. So that's interesting news as well. So here's what some of them look like. The social engineering, this is the macro infection. I'm sure you guys have heard of this. I hope you have. Very, very, very common now, but it's still going through. It's still very popular. It's how Locky first started. I'm sure you've all heard of Locky, where it would tell you, hey, there's many different ways of going about it, but this one was telling you it's from USPS. You missed a package. We want to deliver it to you. Go ahead and open this document and find the location and whereabouts of your package, right? Well, you open up this doc file, and because it used to be when they first started with encrypting ransomware, they used to have a zip attachment that had an executable inside it, and you had to be dumb enough to double-click on the executable inside it, right? Nowadays, they actually just have an actual legit Microsoft Word document, right? Other examples we saw, boom, phishing. New Zealand, I told you they were big on phishing. This one actually threatens to charge you $1.69 a day for you not picking up the package. So it wants you to take a look at the label or find out where it is. This is just another trick as well. But it's interesting social engineering that they're threatening to charge you. I don't think that wouldn't fly in the United States because I've never heard the United States charging you to hold a package. But you open it up, and it tells you this is a protected document. You have to enable the content to view what's inside, right? This is the trick. This is the scam. This document is harmless and doesn't pose any threat to you unless you enable the content, all right? When you do click Enable Content, I've went ahead and pulled up here the code that it'll try and execute. And what it'll do is what you're allowing the Microsoft Word process to do is resolve a URL which is for a malicious executable. So those of you thinking, why aren't you, killing the document isn't actually doing the encryption. It's the payload that it downloads. So yes, your antivirus still has a chance to get it. They got to get it here. And my recommendation, disable macros. I know there are legitimate reasons for macros, but usually you can go about those in a different way, and I suggest that. You can go into the Trust Center of any Microsoft Office application, go to the Trust Center, and you can just turn off macros completely to where they don't even show you that bar saying enable content, and you'll remove, a significant attack vector from, your organization or your computers. Now, it's never going to be 100%, and really, none of these tactics or changes are, but even if it reduces by 20% just by disabling macros, still well worth, the time and investment you put into it. Now we're going to move on to Angler Neutrino exploit kits, okay? So these have been around for a little while. Exploit kits really aren't new. So what they do is they attack vulnerabilities in the system, like so a Flash player, Java, Word, Silverlight vulnerabilities, and then they allow malware payloads to be downloaded through the system. So as far as explaining it to you, and I'll show you sort of how it happens. This is an ad, right, for Joseph Clothiers. You would think when you click on it, you'd be directed to a site where you're picking out a suit and tie, maybe some shirts, customizing, right? That's what you clicked on. No, in fact, you're actually redirected to a malware landing page, which will, use the exploit kit. This one specifically used a Flash exploit to then download CryptXXX, which is an encrypting ransomware payload that will then encrypt the system and encrypt your files. And what's scary is it's not downloading it like it's, downloading your browser where you see it showing your downloads folder and you have to click on it. No, nothing like that. This is even scarier. It actually downloads a DLL and then unloads that DLL's instruction into the actual browser's memory. So if it's your Chrome.exe, Internet Explorer.exe, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, you name it, it'll use that browser's process to do the actual encryption. So a lot nastier than it initially appears. So as far as a nice slide, because you guys, I believe, will be getting a copy of this slide deck. This slide sort of explains it to you nicely. Cyber criminals submit booby-trap advertisements on ad networks for a real-time bidding process. Little backstory here. When they create a new fake ad network to put their fake ads on, for the first couple of weeks or so, they will submit good ads, right? So that way they gain a reputation and get more coverage and acceptance in the community for hosting ads, right? It's not as you have to realize that these malicious ads will then rotate with normal legitimate ads on highly reputable sites. These ads aren't picked by any one single person as far as these ad networks that choose to host ads. It's all done by algorithms, and that's why they're able. This is so successful. They do it by algorithms, which is why they do the first 2 weeks being good, right? So they can get be good variable in the algorithm. And so users visit the site with an infected ad, code attacks the system, and then they're hit with encrypting ransomware payload. So now we're actually going to talk about encrypting ransomware payloads, okay? And so we're going to start with TeslaCrypt. Now, TeslaCrypt currently shut down. It doesn't exist anymore. It was shut down last year. But it was the longest-running campaign of any encrypting ransomware. It went for 15 months. Most of the people who run encrypting ransomware variants, they get in, they get out, they get their money, they're done. These guys went for 15 months. Right? And then they canceled it themselves. They weren't shut down like by authorities or found out. I'm guessing maybe someone got close. They had people sniffing around too close they didn't like, so they shut the project down and they went ahead and released the master key. Said they were sorry, but they're not sorry. Let's be real here. They collected lots of money. They're probably taking an extended vacation, and they'll be back and make something even more prolific, right? But what TeslaCrypt brought to the table is that they were one of the first ransomware to increase the file scope. When ransomware first came out, it was basically just targeting, office documents and personal media files, pictures and stuff. So this one was like, no, let's grab like everything. Let's increase the scope file size to 280 file extension types. They went after everything they could. They even went after like you had zipped up stuff. Oh yeah, we'll just encrypt over the zips. They went after gamers. They went after game saves, game mods, profiles like DayZ profile. So they went after another demographic because usually gamers pretty good with backups. If they lose like their office documents and pictures, they've probably got a recent backup that they're good. They'll just reformat and put everything back over, right? But if you go after their game mods or their game saves, then you've got an extra squeeze and an extra demographic that may actually pay out for you. And it carried along. When something new and powerful comes through that does a good job, right? Every other ransomware after that will then follow suit and continue that tactic as well. In fact, oh yeah, TeslaCrypt, when it was shut down, accounted for 11% of everybody hit with ransomware. It doesn't matter what variant or family out there, TeslaCrypt was responsible for 11% of all of them. So very, very, very huge. Now moving on to Locky. Sure, we've all heard of Locky. Locky is huge. Definitely by far and away the most successful ransomware of 2016. Absolutely. Fairly cheap, only one Bitcoin. I know Bitcoins are over like $1,200 now. But at one point they were only like $500, $600. I wish I had bought in. But it's a volatile market, but it's not going to go anywhere, and I'll explain why here in a bit. But Locky has some interesting tactics. Because they were infecting so many people so often at such large volume, they wanted to sort of, remove visibility from the operations. What they did is, I'm sure you've heard of .zepto or .odin or Thor, Ares, Osiris. They named all these different extensions that would happen. And when it first happened, a lot of people in the malware scene, like researchers, they were classifying .zepto as its own unique thing. Locky was one thing, Zepto was another, Odin was another. And when really they were actually the same guys that were just changing the extension type because they wanted these researchers to lose scope of the full extent of the operation. We've also seen Locky campaigns from Facebook. This is pretty scary. So essentially, if one person gets infected, every friend in their friend list gets messaged this image. Right? This image sent to you is an SVG image. It's a relatively new image format. for saving vector images, okay? So SVG images are used because they're XML-based and allow dynamic content, okay? So crooks, they add malicious JavaScript code right into the photo itself. All you got to do is click on the photo, and then you're redirected to this website that looks like YouTube, but if you look at the URL, it's not YouTube, and a little pop-up comes up asking you, hey, look, if you want to view this video, you've got to install the extension. Now, this is where a lot of red flags would come up. That extension has 0 reviews and doesn't even have an icon. Most people who develop extensions have reviews and have an icon. But we know most of us wouldn't click on this. The whole thing is this relies on only one person clicking. I've got about, I don't know, 200 plus friends. I don't have that many, but I have a decent amount, right? So if only one of my friends, if I was infected with this, less than 0.5% of my friends need to fall for this. So one person falls for it and clicks enable extension, boom, they're hit. What will happen is it will take the already logged in Facebook that you're already logged into, and it will secretly message all your friends with the same image, like a worm, right? One person falls for it, all their friends are then get that message. And then one person from there has to then fall for it, right? And then it's not just that. It's not just that. The extension also downloads Nemucod, which is a malware downloader that will then download CryptXXX or Locky or Server or an encrypting ransomware. So this will eventually, if you are infected, will lead to ransomware. And so this is another interesting tactic that I'm interested to see where it goes because it's relatively new. And so we're also seeing affiliate programs. So part of the reason why Locky was so successful, it wasn't as if those guys that they, are organizing their own botnets and spam campaigns, and they were able to hit all those people because of their own, intuitive, broad phishing campaigns. Yes, they were very good, but they realized that no matter how hard they worked, they were only going to be able to get a set number of people because it's just a small group of guys that actually own Locky, right? So what they did is they have an affiliate program where like, listen, we'll contract anybody out there with good spam botnets if they're doing macro payloads, if they're doing exploit kits, if they're doing JavaScript files or whatever, right? We will basically pay you a share. We will use your attack vectors to increase our infection count so high that when somebody does pay, payout percent's around 3%. When somebody does pay, we have an affiliate ID that tells us which payloads infected their system. So it tells us which attack vector was responsible for successfully infecting the victim and then that victim wanting to actually pay. So they already know who is due a share of that money, and then they give them a share. And it's not just Locky, it's everybody's doing an affiliate system. Server as well. When we move on to CryptXXX, these are the guys straight from exploit kits, okay? Straight from exploit kits. From that, remember I told you those malvertising? Malvertising almost always led to CryptXXX. In fact, 80% of all drive-by attacks led to this ransomware. We're pretty much done with the days where you have a GUI that pops up that tells you what happened. Pretty much now they just change the background and they have a text file in every directory where something was encrypted. So this is the background it changes to you, pretty standard. Here's what happened to your files. You want to get them back, go ahead and install LayerTor browser. Here's your unique onion link to pay your files. We want Bitcoins, so if you don't have any Bitcoins, here's how you get Bitcoins, and it's pretty standard. Server, also doing the same thing. They charge so much money now. They want 2 Bitcoins default payment, 4 Bitcoins if you're late, okay? 4 Bitcoins is like almost $5 grand now. Like we're no longer seeing $300 to get your files back. It's thousands of dollars now. So it's really nasty. So here's the actual server guy. He's CBR, I guess, is his name. And he's posting, this is on a Russian, I have translated, on a Russian hacks forum in the darknet, where he's basically advertising his payload. He's like, listen, all of you guys that got spam botnets or whatever infection vectors or exploit kits you got going, if those of you that need a good payload, because you allow these people to specialize in their own little area, right? No longer do they have to worry about creating perfect payloads. This guy's got one ready. He wants, 30%. He'll allow you to keep 70% of your cut, but he's giving you a well-crafted and coded payload, and he only wants 30%. And that's what he's doing. Now, Crisis is another interesting encrypting ransomware, because essentially I would say there's really no attack vector here. A user doesn't have to click anything, okay? This is done maybe on a computer where no one's even using, right? They literally just brute force. They brute force using like do brute, this tool right here, port 3389. So those of us use RDP, right? Remote Desktop Protocol, to remote into computers to do if that the computer's only used for a certain task. You leave it alone and then you remote into it when you want to do something to it, right? So port 3389, they go ahead and they brute force like administrator and generic passwords, because a lot of people still use that stuff, generic stuff, especially when they're like, this computer isn't even used, there's no way it'll get malware because I only ever use it for this one task and I just remote into it occasionally, right? And so you figure it's fine to have a generic name and password. That's not true at all. In fact, little example story here, we talking to somebody who had their warehouse PC that was responsible for printing out labels and shipping all of their products, and they were like an NFL affiliate, and they were shipping out tons of NFL products, right? They were hit. They couldn't ship out anything, and it was devastating to their business. They're like, we need this back right now. And essentially, they had named the warehouse PC was called Warehouse, the password was Warehouse. And so that even when they cleaned the ransomware off, they were hit again another day later because he had the remote access information. So he has, once they remote in, they have desktop access, they can disable any security you got on the system. Even if you've got a group policy that disables like a user from doing it, they have desktop access. They can throw tools in the desktop that would easily circumvent or get around any sort of AV you may have on the system. And they have almost root access, essentially. They literally just drop the payload on the desktop and they double-click it. That's what they do. And so you got to watch out, change the port from 3389, change the username and password to be something not guessable and generic. It's definitely something you want to watch out for. It was very popular in Australia for the first 9 months, and then it went worldwide. I don't know why Australia gets hit with a lot of the first things first. Could be their time zone being the first country that hits a day out of our time zone, but who knows? Either way, it's something to watch out for because it's very unique. Also moving on, further evolution down the road with ransomware. Okay, Petya and Mishka. This guy, he on Twitter, his handle. If you guys ever seen the movie, the James Bond movie GoldenEye, the hacker Boris. Basically, the image of that guy, I don't know the actor's name, but that dude's character is essentially this guy's avatar. He uses that guy's image for all his stuff, so he likes to be Boris from James Bond. But anyway, this will encrypt every sector on the hard drive. So when you're first hit with the encrypting ransomware payload, it blue screens the machine. Instantly blue screens it so it has to restart, right? Then it restarts to what looks like check disk, saying repairing file disk on C, check disk, la la la, repairing, right? No, not at all. This is actually him just showing off, his custom bootloader, which overwrites the MBR. So he's showing off his low-level code, and this is actually the encryption happening. That percentage that goes up of the check disk repairing sectors, no, it's not repairing, it's encrypting. So he'll encrypt every sector on the hard drive, so once it's done, it reboots, and then you get that petty ransomware. You can't even boot into your computer whatsoever, and you have to use another computer to pay the ransom to get your files back. And that is essentially how that works. And it is definitely seen. In fact, it had widespread media coverage when it hit SSF Mooney, which is the San Francisco Metro facility, and for a whole weekend, they basically just had to let people ride on the train for free. That's basically what they did. Their POS systems, their software wasn't able to boot, so they weren't able to accept any, do any POS services. So it's important. They actually were able to get back up and running in 48 hours. So it just took them the weekend to be hit. They actually had really good backup, which is something you definitely need to watch out for. Is you need to have a good backup solution, especially with stuff like Crisis. Like AutoTask, endpoint backup, actually enterprise-grade, purpose-built. You will need to have really reputable, well-designed backup solutions because in the case of like Crisis, when they're on the computer, that's another thing I want to mention about Crisis, they will actually, since they have access to the computer, they can take a look at your network and they can see all the PCs on that network, maybe even network-connected drives you have as backups, and then go after and encrypt those. And so that's something you need to watch out for, most definitely. And so Bitcoins in the underground ecosystem. The FBI estimated cyber criminals would collect over $1 billion in ransoms in 2016. I think it's 2 to 3 times that, personally, because that was just what was reported. There are plenty of people, okay, and organizations that were hit with ransomware. They just want to be done with it as quickly as possible. They paid the ransom, they got done with it, got their files back, and they sort of just swept it on the rug, and they were like, let's never talk about this again. Let's make sure we don't get hit by this again, right? They didn't report it to the FBI. So it's much higher than that, I really do suggest. But Lockheed, okay, Lockheed, for example, they hit 400,000 victims first week in February of 2016, and since then, 90,000 people a day, okay? So they had a payout rate of 3%. They made $1 million a day, right? But it's not just, like I said, it's not one guy or a group of guys. It's an entire community of specialists that allow it to happen. Exploit kit authors work solely on finding insecure websites that they can exploit to host malware as an attack vector, okay? And, you know, they don't have to worry about payloads being perfect, so they work together. The guys who work on just the exploits, they don't have to worry about, you know, dealing with victims for payment. And, you know, they don't have to worry about, you know, taking Bitcoins and laundering it in the underground. It's pretty ridiculous. So here's a little stat here with Lockheed. They'll make about $400 million a year if they do continue. It's insane how much money they make. But I do believe they're trending down now. They're going to sort of get out. Like I told you, they don't really go for that long, because the longer you're active, the longer you have somebody potentially trying to chase you. So now we're going to move on to 2017 predictions, okay? Patch your systems, please. Holy smokes. We are, what, 2.5 years since Heartbleed was disclosed, and there were over 200,000 systems, you know, on Amazon, Verizon, Comcast, still using thousands and thousands of services that are vulnerable to Heartbleed. So if you guys still have any, you know, open SSL, you got to patch it. That's what I'm just trying to say, is watch out for that. Continued hacks for cars, right? All makes and models, doesn't matter, luxury or non-luxury, those key fobs that are wireless, that proximity-based, that tell if you're close to the car and unlock it. If you're inside the car, will help you start it, push to start. You can basically duplicate those. You get a signal repeater, get it next to the key fob, right? So it will reproduce the signal, then you get another signal repeater that will take that signal and repeat it, and you can use that signal to take it next to the car and unlock it, okay? Here's an example of it used in real-life world. He's got a big industrial strength signal repeater with some high-gain antennas on there, and he's standing outside someone's house. You got holding up to that brick wall next to the window. I'm guessing the keys are inside the house somewhere on the table, on a hook, who knows? And his buddy's able to get inside the car, and they drive it away. And they usually drive it out to party. Because remember, once they drive away from the signal, they don't have it anymore. They can't, once they turn the car off, they can't turn it back on again. It's only a one-time use thing. So they usually drive it to a place where they can just part it out and sell it for parts. Ransomware for IoT devices. Yes, we've seen it. For thermostats, they will lock you out. They use a Linux-based operating system where the screensavers, they let you pick new screensavers, right? They put malware as masking as a screensaver, and then it would lock you out and ask for a Bitcoin. And toys as well, guys. So guys heard of Cloud Pets? It's like a little app you can download on your phone, and you can like send messages like, I love you, I'll be home soon. You send it to the pet, and then the pet says it to the kid, right? Sounds like a good idea in theory, but you got to make sure it's secure. All of these data and messages and stored recordings were stored on a MongoDB installation that was completely wide open for anybody to access with no password or authentication required, okay? So cybercriminals scanned for this, found these installations, deleted all the data on the server, and then left ransom notes. So they deleted all of these recordings and left only a ransom note saying, if you want these data back, got to pay the Bitcoin. So that's just atrocious approach in cybersecurity. You have to realize now, vendors, they're really focused on like a set it and forget it mentality. They're focused and financed purely on functionality and not any security vetting. You've got to have that in place. And I do believe that legislation will be there in the future. So that's my part for here. I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to, I believe, Stephanie or Caroline, who will take part for the next portion of the presentation. I appreciate you guys chiming in, and we'll have questions at the end.
Thank you, Tyler. That was some great stuff, some scary stuff. I know I'm definitely going to go check my Wi-Fi router when I get home. I'm going to pass the ball over to Caroline now, who is going to talk about how Autotask's unified platform will help you win new business while keeping security in mind. Caroline, here you go.
Excellent. Thank you, Stacy. And thank you, Tyler, for getting us to this point in the webinar. That was really some great content, as Stacy said, and certainly something that's, I think, always a little scary to hear about, especially all the phishing and malware attacks out there and taking place. But this content is so helpful because not only does it help educate us all, but it helps us to keep everyone aware of what to look for to help prevent various attacks on their business. So thank you again, and we will bring you back on in just a few moments for some Q&A. So along with Webroot, Autotask is also very concerned and committed to helping our partners and customers overcome these crypto virus attacks. And in fact, it all comes down to keeping endpoints safe. So I thought it would be helpful to start with some stats that we have from our Metrics That Matter survey. It's a benchmarking survey we do each year with our customers, so service providers just like all of you. And what we're hearing and seeing in the market from everyone that's contributing to this survey is that endpoint management came back as the #1 revenue driver in 2016. And client security came back as the #1 concern. So I don't think anyone on the line here would be surprised at that, just given everything we just heard from Tyler. And in fact, 55% of the respondents said that they see continued growth in endpoints. And Gartner is estimating 26 billion endpoints globally by the end of 2020. So what is that telling us? There's a lot of endpoints out there, and the number is continuing to grow. So it's really up to you, service providers out there, to deliver better endpoint management. This is really important. And so Autotask and Webroot believe that service providers who deliver better endpoint management will really thrive in their business. And so this is where Autotask's unified platform comes into play, the only unified PSA and RMM tool that will help you secure and support your endpoints, and it also helps you recover from security attacks. So with Autotask, you're getting a centralized, unified data set of all monitoring and support activity and supported assets held within one single database. And it's available for internal and customer-facing reporting, which is critical as you're running your business and having those end client-facing monthly and quarterly business reviews. So essentially, you're getting a unified product experience across the board, regardless of what role you play within your organization. And if you think about how our endpoint management solution is tightly integrated with Webroot and our PSA and supports patching and keeping those endpoints clean and current, really aids in securing the entire estate that you're managing. So Autotask really is a component or a layer to a best practice multi-layer approach to security. So let's take a closer look. So here what I'm showing you is an example of a customized dashboard that is set up by role, by department, by function, by team. You can see it really is truly a single pane of glass that provides a comprehensive view of your business across all of the functions within your organization. This is up to you to set up as you need to see your business. It will give you a consolidated view of your business performance in one place. But the combination of these metrics together adds more meaning and context that produces new insights about business performance and can really help take your business to the next level. We're talking about endpoint management and integrating that data with our PSA, which is really what makes for our unified platform. So this is a special dashboard that we've created to show how the integration with AEM works. You can see there's a special dashboard there set up for AEM analytics, and it's taking a large number of additional device information from AEM that we're physically transmitting into the PSA database. So now we're taking the information about devices that was traditionally technically or services oriented, and now we're putting it into a true business context. So I've blown up 5 different examples here so you can just see them a little bit more clearly. So if you look to the top left there, warranty expiration, I can now see my upcoming warranty operations. I can see my upgrade opportunities around the different operating systems that are filtered by end of life. I can see consolidated alerts and monitors to show my clients with the biggest recurring issues around disk space and memory. So these are now not only business opportunities, but true revenue opportunities that you can derive from having this information live right within one single database, all a result of our endpoint management tool. So all of this, coupled with the WebRoot integration around security, provides really a single pane of glass to manage and secure all of your endpoints. So this will give you an opportunity to run your business both smarter and better, truly a powerful solution. So what does this really mean for you? It's all about helping all of you, our service providers, our customers, win new business, execute projects, and then deliver managed services to your clients. So we say that the Autotask Unified Platform is unified from beginning to endpoint, and we think of it as the Autotask Partner Solution Set. And so this solution set allows partners like you to deliver unified managed services from beginning to endpoint. And so what does that mean? It means that there is opportunity for you from beginning to endpoint. And while AEM, our endpoint management tool, is all about deploying, monitoring, and supporting those endpoints, Autotask actually launched a new product this past year that's truly about securing the endpoint. We introduced a product called Autotask Endpoint Backup. Some of you may have heard about this already. This is an enterprise-grade file and folder backup solution that's purpose-built for business. It's purpose-built for the channel for service providers like you to better serve and to better service and support your end clients to keep their data secure. You can help them recover from ransomware attacks quickly and easily, and you can really be that thought leader and leading with this type of technology. If you're already providing it or offering it within your managed services portfolio, perhaps you want to take a look at this. Maybe it's a swap out, or as you can see there on the slide, this type of product could also be used as what we call the thin wedge. So it could be an opportunity for you to wedge into a specific account if you don't already have them as a customer for your full managed services bundle. So it's also backed by our robust partner program, of which I'll talk about a little bit further in just a moment. So we also have another product that fits into the security type of discussion, and that's Autotask Workplace. This is our enterprise-grade file sync and share solution, and this also is purpose-built for business, and it's purpose-built for service providers to sell to and support and better support your end clients. It's focused around security, collaboration, accessibility. This is something that is that's really useful in business and could provide you a nice recurring revenue model for you, as well as project revenue, and will really give peace of mind to your clients. And while we don't say that a solution like Endpoint Backup or Autotask Workplace can prevent virus attacks, ransomware attacks, it can help you recover quickly. So it's just something I want you to think about. And again, this is all backed by a robust partner program, of which really is the core to this whole channel offering and unified managed services. So let me just walk you through quickly a couple of the key benefits and that you'll get as a result of joining this program. We offer a partner playbook for both products and a partner toolkit for both products. That really is the core of the program. That's what will give you the tools and resources you need to sell, support, and use the product on your own. You would be given a dedicated account manager, and we introduced a partner development manager role this year, and that's really all about helping you joint sell. You're not in this alone. We realize that this might be new for some of you, and we're all about helping you uncover that opportunity in your base, within your prospects, and helping you sell. We'll do the demo. We'll help you do that discovery call. We give you a fixed cost for the licenses so you can set the end client pricing. You know your clients best in the market, so you can charge what you see fit. We also believe very much in enablement and providing you the education and the training you need to be successful. So we offer both live and on-demand sessions to help you with all of that. We give you internal use licenses free of charge to use within your business and really become comfortable with these products so that the more you use them, the more able you are to really understand the value and talk about the value with your clients and prospects. And then, of course, we give you licenses that you can sell to your base, but also we give you access to a partner portal that will allow you to provision and manage your clients' teams and storage and everything that goes along with those particular teams that you'll set up. And of course, we're here to support you. You would provide support to your clients, but we're here for you. So if you do need additional support or something needs to be escalated, you can call us firsthand. And just a quick snapshot of what the toolkit will look like. We give you all the campaign tools you need to drive leads and be successful. We give you product logos, partner logos, email templates, social media tweet campaigns, as well as end client-facing PowerPoint decks. And of course, some great collateral that you can share with your clients and prospects as well, all of which is co-brandable with your logo, so you can really put your best foot forward when you're working with your clients. And all of this is tied together with our partner playbook. This is really the backbone. So this is a step-by-step guide of what you need to do to get started using either product. We talk about technical enablement and the classes and the sessions and the recorded sessions that are available to you, and really what order you should take them in so that you're getting onboarded correctly. And then how to make money when it comes to project-driven revenue, incorporating these products into your managed services bundle for a recurring revenue model. We help you identify those opportunities. We help you enable your sales team, and then it's all about discovering the opportunity in your base. As I mentioned, we have discovery questions, we have resources, we have partner development managers, account managers, and then it's about helping you run those key plays to drive leads and win new business. So this is how you can win with Autotask. You can use Autotask Unified Platform to really make it all happen, run your business better, run it more efficiently, keep it safe. You can expand your service catalog with Autotask Workplace and Endpoint Backup and really take advantage of our robust partner programs with all the resources and support that we give you. If you have any questions and you're already an Autotask customer, please feel free to reach out to your account manager. Or if you have questions or not sure who that is, certainly feel free to email sales@autotask.com and someone will assist you with your questions right away. And then you'll be ready to drive leads and start growing your incremental monthly recurring revenue. So we hope that you'll take advantage of that. I know that was quick. We are right at the top of the hour. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I'm going to hand it back to Stacy for